Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video, and today we're going to be doing my second Batman timeline video. Now this is a much requested review, which I did promise you guys. However, there's certain reasons why I was holding back on you, and I'll get to those before I actually get into the timeline. Now, in my first timeline video, I laid out all my Batman stories in the modern continuity. Gave you play-by-play on what goes where, which came first, and all that kind of jazz. Now, since then, I've got a lot more Batman stories, so it's only logical that I updated the timeline and give you a second timeline video. Now, the original intent in this video was to give you not only the ages of the characters, but what time span for each story and what year they take place in. Now, I found something about the ages that made it pretty much hard to give you the exact ages of the characters, and that is the ages are inconsistent. Take, for example, Batman Year 1, Bruce Wayne is 25 when he returns to Gotham and becomes Batman. 10 years later, during No Man's Land, he would be then 35, because No Man's Land marks the 10th year Batman is in Gotham. And then, in Grant Morrison's run, it is stated that he is still 35. That doesn't make sense. There's two explanations to this. One is 0 Hour, A Crisis in Time, which basically did a lot to update the DC universe. It removed Batman Year 2, it turned Selina Kyle from a prostitute and just into a thief, and Batman's age could have been updated there. In addition to that, characters in comics get their ages retconned all the time. So it's probably just Grant Morrison giving Batman a little age facelift. Despite all this, despite the fact that I don't want to go play-by-play with the ages, I can give you what the ages genuinely are now. Bruce Wayne would be about 35 years old. Now, Dick Grayson joined Batman at the age of 12, and the reason why I say this is he joined the New Teen Titans when he was 19, and the New Teen Titans showed up about 7 years into the DC Universe history. So, 7, 12, 19, so then he would be about 12 when he joined Bruce, although it always changes depending on who's the writer and such. So, Dick Grayson would be about 10 years younger than Batman. I want to say ages 25 to 27, anywhere along that line. Tim Drake wouldn't be older than 17. He would be about 17 years old. And Jason Todd's age is very inconsistent. I would place him in his early 20s, probably 20 to 23. Then again, he did die, and that did screw up his growth, and I don't even know how long he was dead for. So, anyways. I think it was a couple months, but still, it could screw around with ages. Anyways, I am going to give you also the eras, or what I call eras, that these stories take place in. I divide the Batman stories up into eras, like Year 1 stories, or New Gotham stories, or the 1 year later stories, stuff like that. So, when I go through the video, if you're confused by what I'm saying with it being like this is New Gotham stories, I'll explain beforehand, so that you're not confused. Lastly, the reason why I was holding out on you guys on the timeline videos is around 4 Batman stories that I have not picked up. 4 to 5. And they would be Batman Prey, Legacy, Contagion, Fortune's Son, and The Chalice. Now, the reason why I haven't got these is, well, one, Legacy and Prey are like $35 to $40. I'm not going to spend that much on a Batman comic. Even though I have with Prodigal, I'm not going to do it again. Not with money the way it is. Second is that I just haven't got time to come around and get Chalice or Fortune's Son or Contagion. They're out there, I just haven't had the motivation to pick them up yet. So, with that said, let's get into the timeline itself. Okay, here's the first section, which I call the Year 1 era. This is where it's mostly Batman's first year. Now, in this era is mostly Batman Year 1 in the Legends of the Dark Knight series. Batman Year 1 obviously comes first, which Shaman is a sequel to. Now, Monster Men would come next, and Prey would fit in between here, between Monster Men and the Mad Monk. These stories make reference to the first appearance of the Joker, which shows up here. Now, these stories technically are in the Year 1 story. They would take place during Year 1. However, they're going to be placed afterwards. Now, The Man Who Laughs would come next. The first half of the story takes place in Batman's first year, while the second half takes place sometime after No Man's Land. I just put it in Batman's first year. Batman Gothic and Venom would come next. Then Four of a Kind, which would introduce the Riddler, Man-Bat, Poison Ivy, and the Scarecrow. After that would be Collected the Legends of Dark Knight. The reason why I placed this afterwards is because Poison Ivy shows up in it, so thus she would have to, be afterwards. Next would come Batman in Other Realms, and then Batman Snow, which introduces Mr. Freeze. Moving on, we have Batman's second and third year right here. Now, because of Zero Hour Crisis in Time, Batman Year 2 and 3 have been removed and replaced with Batman Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and Haunted Night. Now, Haunted Night is debatable on where it goes. A lot of people put it later in the timeline. I like to put it right here because, it's 3 different Halloweens, and it fits nicely with the Tim Sale, Jeff Loeb story. Next would be Batman Terror, which is technically a spiritual sequel to Batman Prey. However, it takes place in Batman's third year. Now, there's a big gap between Batman's third year and what I like to call the 7th year. There's no stories that take place in this. You can fill this void up with various stories like Tales of the Demon or Strange Apparitions, which actually are Bronze Age stories, but they still count in continuity with the modern continuity. Next would be Batman 10 Nights of the Beast, which is the first time we see Jason Todd in the modern continuity. And then after that would be The Killing Joke, and then Death in the Family. Next, we would be coming up on A Lonely Place of Dying, which introduces Tim Drake into the modern continuity. Blind Justice would come after that, and then The Sword of Azure, which is the prequel to Batman Nightfall. Now, then we would have Batman Nightfall and its sequel, Prodigal. Now, we have Batman Anarchy, and the first story in Anarchy actually takes place right after Death in the Family, because it makes reference to Jason Todd being dead. However, the majority of it actually takes place after Prodigal, so I like to put this nice and snugly after Prodigal, hanging out right there. Now, in between Prodigal and No Man's Land would be Contagion and Legacy. However, I don't have those 2 stories, so I can't include them in the timeline. Next would be Cataclysm and No Man's Land, which would mark the 10th year of Batman's career. So this would be 1 year right here. So anything up until this point has been 10 years. After that would be called the New Gotham Era. Now this would be stories after No Man's Land. I call it the New Gotham Era because on many of the books it says New Gotham. So I just roll with it. We have Batman Evolution, then Officer Down. Then we come to Batman Bruce Wayne Murderer in the Batman Bruce Wayne Fugitive series. After that would be Batman Hush, which only takes a few days. Then Batman Broken City, and then Batman As Crows Fly. After this, we move on to the War series, or at least the War Era, I call it. All the stories that take place during the War games before the Infinite Crisis. Would be War Drums, the prequel to War Games. And then we would have Under the Hood. After that would be City of Crime, Hush Returns, and War Crimes. Now the reason why I call this the War section is it's the time in which Black Mask was the head of the crime underworld. That's why I made it all one big section. War Games would take only maybe a few days. I think it was only a day or 2, and then everything up to here would take maybe a month or 2. So up to here would be probably Batman's 13th year. I mean, it's really hard to judge from Batman Evolution all the way up to Batman As Crows Flies how much time has passed, because, for example, Batman Hush only takes a few days, where Batman Fugitive takes a few months. So it's really debatable how much time has passed. But we can say up until this point has been about 13 years. Moving on, the Infinite Crisis happens, and we have what I call the 1 year later stories and Grant Morrison's run. This is the 1 year later stories section, which has Batman Face to Face, Paul Dini's Detective. Now, Batman and Son go in between Detective and Death in the City. Now, one would think Death in the City is a direct sequel to Detective. And in most cases it is, but there's some time in between the 2 stories where Batman and Son take place. And then we have what I call the Grant Morrison time, which the majority of the stories is Grant Morrison, which is Batman the Resurrection of Ra's al Ghul, The Black Glove, Private Casebook, Heart of Hush, Batman R.I.P., and then finally the last story thus far has been Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader. So let's just do a rundown of time in between each story. So in Batman, this is the year 1 era, which is basically a year, maybe plus, in Batman's career. Moving on, we have the 2nd and 3rd year of Batman's career. And then we have a gap right here in between where Batman's 7th year of his career shows up. Now, in between Batman's 7th year and No Man's Land is about 3 years, depending. So, after Jason Todd was probably Robin for a year. Then he died. There was some time where Batman didn't have Robin, and then Tim Drake shows up. He was probably Robin for a year before Cataclysm and No Man's Land happened. So this is roughly 3 years right here. Moving on, we have No Man's Land and Cataclysm, which is a year. Then we have roughly maybe 3 years with these stories right here, the New Gotham era. These stories take about a few days to happen to a few months. And then finally, a year later, we have these stories which take about a year thus far. I hope that timeline helped you guys out. Like I said, I wish I had more of the graphic novels to put into the timeline. I'm just missing them. Some of them are hard to get, and some of them I just haven't had time to come around to. I will do a Batman timeline video every few months when new Batman stories have come out. And hopefully my next timeline video will be a little bit more structured. But that should give you a general idea of how much time has passed with each story and what stories go where. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'll be happy to answer them. I plan on doing a Wonder Woman timeline in the near future. And when I get a few more books, a Justice League timeline. After that, I possibly could do a Superman and maybe even a Green Lantern timeline. The only reason why I'm holding out on them is, again, I don't have all the graphic novels for them. So it's going to be much later down the road for those two. But a Wonder Woman timeline will be coming relatively soon. Now, again, I'm making a promise for it, but I'm not going to tell you when it's coming. So with that said, I will be doing a Batman timeline every few months when new Batman graphic novels come out. Hopefully my next timeline will have more to it. With that said, this is Andrew saying peace out for now.